Hello everyone, welcome to today's bookish video. Over the last few weeks, I picked up 4 books that I chose based on recommendations by fellow booktubers on YouTube. So today, these 4 that I've chosen, I'm just going to be sharing my thoughts on them. The first 2 books I got because they were by Asian authors. This one is Kim Jiyoung Born 1982 by Cho Nam-Joo, and this one is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. And then the next 2 books I chose because they were by female authors. This is Normal People by Sally Rooney and The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. The first book I'm going to introduce you guys to is Kim Jiyoung Born 1982. And I have a lot to say about this, so brace yourself because this one, I was passionate. Kim Jiyoung Born 1982 is about a Korean woman. It shows the significant events from her childhood up until her becoming a young wife and mother. While reading this book, my passion, my fight to get women's rights as equal as possible just got relit anew. Women's rights honestly come a long way, and I'm so blessed to be born in my generation. However, there is still so many negative experiences that are happening today, and I want to highlight some of the things in this book that many young women and girls are still going through right now. I felt so passionate about Kim Ji-young's story because it's not an isolated experience. And so what gets under my skin the most is just the different expectations and pressures that are put on women. And a lot of it is double standards and honestly just feels so unfair. Most of the expectations do not benefit the women, it benefits men. The worst is when men harm women and they are not held accountable for their actions. Instead, the female is blamed as the catalyst for that bad behavior. An example of this is when growing up, young girls are told that if a boy is mean to you, it's because he's interested in you. The teacher patted Jiyoung on the back. You know what, Jiyoung? Let me tell you something that I've known for a while that you haven't noticed. He likes you. Jiyoung was so aghast that she stopped crying. He hates me, she said. I thought you said that you've seen how he's been treating me. Boys are like that, the teacher laughed. They're meaner to the girls they like. Kim actually had a teacher say this to her after a series of bullying incidents. Boys are like that. They are meaner to girls they like. The teacher basically justifies his actions of him throwing her shoes and pulling her hair and other forms of bullying under the fact that he's in love. And he's doing this because she's not noticing him. He is trying to get her attention. The stress levels is really high at this point because the fact is that is still being said. Like, that is something that is so commonly said, especially when young kids are playing in the playground. Like, I've heard it. That is not true. If someone is harming you, they do not like you. That is not how you show love. And that is not how you show love when you're young, when you're an adult, at any point in your life. And another incident that happened when she was either in middle school or high school, I can't remember exactly, was she was coming home from cram school and it was late at night. And a strange boy decides to follow her from outside the cram school. Despite her efforts to try to get away, she even tried to fake that she wasn't getting off the bus and then got off last minute when it was her stop. But this creep still managed to follow her off the bus. And now the problem is the bus stop that she's getting off at is that it is dark, it is late at night, there is no one else there, and she's quite far away from home still. Luckily, a lady on the bus had noticed her awkwardness and decided to get off the bus to assist her. Please don't follow me, please, please, she prayed to herself. And she stepped off the bus into the deserted street, and the male student got off as well. They were the only 2 around, and the broken streetlight made the bus stop even darker. Jiyoung froze where she stood. The male student approached her. You always sit in front of me, he said under his breath. You always effing smile when you pass me handouts, and always flirting with your highs and goodbyes, and now you treat me like a predator. The bus suddenly stopped down the road, and the woman from earlier got off. Hey miss, you forgot your scarf, she cried as she came running, waving a scarf that anyone could see at a glance a girl of Ji-young's age would never wear. The male student spat and stormed off. When the woman got to the bus stop, Ji-young collapsed and burst into tears. Now, when her father found out what happened, he decided to blame on the fact that her skirt was too short, that she was traveling far, and that she shouldn't be talking to strangers. Many women are told this message of dress conservatively, ladylike, and make sure you avoid danger. It is your responsibility. And if something happens, it is because you did not notice. They put this fear in us that if we step out of line and don't act a certain way or look a certain way, something bad will happen and it is our own fault. I can't explain to you how some of these stories in this book made me want to cry. no, made me cry. I was in tears at several points, but at this point, especially when her family is blaming her and saying it's her fault that something negative happened, it was so hard. The only person that reassured her and told her that it was not her fault was this kind lady that helped her. The woman said she was glad Jiyoung was fine and suddenly declared, "It's not your fault. There were far too many crazy men in the world. She'd had her share of run-ins with these people, and the problem was with them, not the women." Hearing this made Jiyoung cry. Trying to swallow her tears, she couldn't say anything back. But you know what? The woman added, "There's far more great guys out there." Unlike her father, who was just saying that she should have done better to protect herself, the compassionate woman understands that we should hold those who do wrong accountable and not the victim. The woman gave her hope that it's not all bad, and I do believe that too. I'm not on here to be like, all men are completely horrible. I don't believe that at all. However, when men do mess up and women are then blamed for that, I definitely think that's something that still needs to change. And it is very hard to see that a lot of women go through bad experiences and then feel even worse because they are blamed and said that they started that bad experience, like they deserve that bad experience, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And so another thing this book sheds light on is the work environment and how it's still very much a man's world. We can start at the interview process where two people have the exact same CV and one gets chosen over the other simply because he's a man, and the other person is a woman, and women are seen as higher risk in employment. A woman is a higher risk for a company. They believe women are risky because they will get married and they will have babies. And there's all the drama of dealing with maternity leave, and companies don't want to bother with that. And in some job fields, a man and woman will be doing the exact same job, but the woman will be getting paid less. And the reason behind that is that the man will be the breadwinner and the woman will leave to go make babies. And so this affects them while they're working. Like, women are not given certain promotions because they're not seen as a long-lasting employee. Next, I want to talk more about this baby making machines that women are. There is still the social pressure for women to have children, and having a boy in particular will be glorious for the family. Let's talk about China one-child rule, you know, the craziness that happened out there. That was also happening in Korea and, you know, other countries, I'm guessing, maybe, who had this belief that your first child should be a son, and if you don't have a son, you have to keep trying for a son. I'm not even going to get into some of the horrific, painful and traumatic things that have happened because of this belief that having a boy over a girl is better. And so when a woman does have a child, whether it's because she's given into the pressure or whether it's because she's chosen to do so herself, there is still now this whole who looks after the child. Looking after a child costs money, and what people need to understand is that the two options are: a mother continues to work to provide for childcare, so someone to look after the child, or the mother stops working and becomes a stay-at-home mom. And so when a woman decides that she's going to go back to work and provide for her family and continue to care for them through that way, outsiders don't see that. She gets judged that she's cold and unnurturing because she's leaving her child alone in daycares and things like that, because she cares more about her job and progressing and climbing the ladder and career focused and money hungry and whatever else they say to women who continue their careers, that she should be spending time with her child instead of working, that she's not being a good mother because she's putting her work before her child's needs. And then some mothers decide that after their maternity leave, they don't go back to work and they'll actually just become a stay-at-home mom because it's cheaper to look after a child yourself than hiring out. Now, what this woman who decides to look after her child does not expect is to be called a mum roach by society. This is an actual word people are using to describe women. It's quite sickening. She's insulted because it's believed she does nothing all day and lives off her man's money. They're thinking she's been lazy and is not working and is not supporting her family. Like, honestly, there's no way to win in this situation. When it comes to childcare, people are going to judge a woman no matter what. And it's unfair and it needs to change. And finally, the last thing I want to say about this book is that it highlights a very huge problem with spy cameras and how over the last few years in South Korea, there has been a disgusting growth in the invasion of privacy. The fact that I know that this is real, like this is a fiction book, but the fact that I know that some women are going through this, but in this particular book, the women that this incident happened to are completely shattered and they lose trust in the men around them. They were beyond violated and some of them needed therapy to process what had happened to them. I don't understand why watching someone using the toilet is a thing, but it's gross and it needs to stop because it's very humiliating for the victims. After reading such a heavy book, I knew I needed something sentimental and something that would make me think about life in a positive way. And I picked up Before the Coffee Gets Cold, and this was the exact fix I needed for my heart. In a small back alley in Tokyo, there is a cafe that has been serving carefully brewed coffee for over 100 years. But this coffee shop offers its customers a unique experience, a chance to go back in time. I don't know about you, but this sounds like such an appealing offer to me. If I had the opportunity to go back in time and fix a moment I messed up and I could get it right this time, I would take it in a heartbeat. However, going back in time is not as easy as it seems, and there are quite a few rules. For example, you can only meet someone you had a conversation with at that cafe, so it's not just any location. And then when you do get the chance to go back in time, you have a time limit, and it is until the coffee gets cold. There are some other rules that are quite funny and that I definitely think you will enjoy finding out. But then the last rule that was kind of annoying, was very annoying, is that when you do get a chance to go back in time and you make the moment right, nothing changes in the present. And this is why most people give up and don't go through with the experience. They feel that they're wasting their time if nothing gets fixed. That is the whole purpose of trying to go back. Yet for the lovers, the husband and wife, the sisters and the mother, these characters were desperate enough to take a leap of faith to go back in time, even if they knew nothing was going to happen. And from their experience, I learned that it's not so much about going back in time, but it's about becoming brave. It's about saying the things that you were too afraid to share. It's about having a conversation with someone you missed because you regret not valuing them when they were around. And now there are no longer any more opportunities for reconciliation. I've learned that hiding your feelings inside and being scared to be vulnerable actually causes you more pain in the long run. And even though going back in time doesn't change anything at present, it gives people closure and courage to make the future that they have in front of them more honest. Time is a limited resource and it should be treated as a treasure. The connections the characters have with each other, the relationship they have is actually very sweet and heartwarming. One day they stumbled upon a basement cafe with no windows and clocks that tell the wrong time. And that cafe immediately became their second home. The characters are more than just regulars. The cafe is a part of them and they are also basically furniture, a part of the cafe. And it was really nice to see that in this place that meant so much to them, in this sacred place, they were able to change their lives for the better. I love this book and I really wanted to share this with you guys, so I'm glad I was able to. And so next I wanted to read a YA novel, a young adult novel. I wanted to read something very modern about relationships, and so I came across Normal People. I'm just gonna say this, I do not think I'm saying the male character's name right. At school, Connell and Marion pretend they don't know each other. Yet their life is already intertwined as Connell's mother is actually Marion's family's cleaner. And so most days after school, he would go to pick up his mum from work, and while he's waiting for her, he would have really deep conversations with Marianne. Over time, during the short exchanges, it becomes clear they have chemistry. They have a really strong, passionate connection mentally and physically. And so the two decide to explore that. And so even though their relationship has progressed, Connor still pretends not to know Marion at school. And he does this because he's insecure and cares about what other people think. See, Marion wasn't part of the cool crowd and she was actually picked on quite a bit. Now, I try not to judge these characters too much throughout the whole book. I understand that they are two young adults doing the best they can trying to grow up. They make mistakes, but they are good people who genuinely care for each other. But even though they like each other so much, they always seem to complicate things. Because the fact is, they are both seriously damaged, and hurt people. Connell has low self-esteem and feels lost about his identity and where he belongs. And so because of this, he used Marion and treated her really badly. While Marion grew up in an abusive home and was starved of love and affection. Though she had money, she never had any warmth or love. And so she willingly gravitates towards people who will hurt her because she thinks that's what she deserves. Let me be honest, I think Normal People is an okay book. And I'm only saying that because reading this book annoyed me so much. Like every time they did something dumb, I just wanted to throw the book. Watching them be messy was exhausting. I was not feeling this drama anymore after a while. For example, they will be in a situation and all one person has to do is be honest. But no, they don't want to speak up about their intentions at crucial moments. And so miscommunication happens time and time again. And so Connor and Marion are in this repetitive cycle of on again and off again. And it's so frustrating because even though I thought Connor was an idiot and at first I didn't like him, over time I did, warm to him and I was just genuinely rooting for them and I just wanted them to get their ish together. Can you guys just be happy already? Honestly, that's all I kept thinking throughout this book. I was just like, you guys are wasting time. Anyway, let me move on to the last book. And finally, I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And the first thing I just want to say is, I honestly thought she was a real character. Obviously, like, I know she wasn't, but I could see her, like, I could feel her presence. This book is about a Hollywood actress in her 70s who decides she wants to write her biography, and she chooses an unknown writer, Monique Grant, to do it. Now, unfortunately, she didn't choose Monique because she believes she was this underrated talent that would do her book justice. She does think this, however, the main reason Monique was called was because Evelyn has a secret. And the only way Monique can find out what this secret is for her to write Evelyn's story. I thought Evelyn was such an interesting character, especially the way she spoke about her life. She felt no regret or remorse over certain decisions she made in order to climb up the ladder, and she never believed any of her decisions or choices were sins. She did not like it when Monique called the fact that she had married 7 husbands a sin. Yet Evelyn knows she was not a good person, and she does not pretend to be one. And she does not want to be portrayed in her biography in a good light to make it seem that she meant well with all her bad decisions. If it benefited her goals, Evelyn was willing to do anything, and she was always aware that she was using people. She always wanted to live life in her control. Another thing Evelyn wanted to make perfectly clear in her biography was her sexuality. She had loved men before, but the person who she loved the most and who was her soulmate was a woman. And so yes, in this biography, a Hollywood star is coming out after hiding this part of her life for so long. If you asked Miss Hugo who the love of her life was out of the 7 husbands she married, she would look at you and remain quiet. That is because Evelyn never publicly married the person she loved the most. The person who she shared the most intimacy with and that she cared about the most genuinely, she was never able to fully commit to them because Evelyn let her career and fame get in the way a lot of times. Her relationship was important to her, but she also had to think about her career that she had worked blood, sweat and tears hard for to achieve. She struggled for that spot in the spotlight and she was not willing to give it up that easily. But at 70+ years old, Evelyn looks back on life and thinks, what was it all for? She climbed to the top of the mountain and it cost her so much. In her last remaining days, she clearly wants the world to know that she doesn't care about any of it. And with that, we have come to the end of this bookish video. I went through so many different journeys with all 4 of these books, and some of them have honestly become my absolute favorites and I plan on rereading them. It's really important for me to diversify my bookshelf. I'm always trying to find Asian authors, African authors, and I especially try to always find some female authors. I truly understand why all of these are bestsellers. They are absolutely amazing. I feel such a strong bond to some of these books. I definitely recommend that you grab yourself a copy of a book that you think seems along the line of what you are looking for. Some of these books really open my mind again. A reminder of your beliefs and what you want out of life, like the things that are important to you. And some of these books had really strong messages. I have linked my books down below. Let me know in the comment section if you've read any of them or you have anything to add to some of the points that I've mentioned. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, remember to like, comment down below, subscribe, ring the notifications so you know when I post, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!